Gas-powered cars in California about to run out of gas over the next 13 years. Golden State regulators voted Thursday to ban the sale of new gas-powered cars by 2035. If it were its own country, California would be the world's fifth biggest economy, giving it tremendous influence over the entire auto industry. So speculation is several states will follow in their lead, but the rule would not apply to used cars. Needless to say, this shakes up the entire auto industry, the oil industry, as well as several others. Rochelle, I want to get your thoughts.
I mean, we do know that things were heading in this direction anyway. When you look at some of these big oil and gas companies, they're still portioning a lot of their research and development into clean energy. So they know this is a transition. This is probably a faster transition than they wanted. I thought it was interesting that we saw Tesla responding to this California EV law, saying that they believe the proposal should be amended to achieve an overall stringency level of 100% of ZEVs by 2030. And they actually even went even further when it came to talking about hybrids. They also included that, saying that they really wanted to see the use of some of these plug-in EVs, PHEVs, or electric vehicles, in annual compliance as well. So they're really,
Sure.
Tesla obviously has its own vested interest in this.
Of course, you could have named this after them. They are the one who benefits here. The rest of the economy, the rest of the companies, not so much. Look, I think this is a nice idea, except for two main things: supply and demand, which are kind of important. So let's first talk about demand. Demand nationally for EVs right now is about 6% of all automobiles. People don't largely want them despite the high price of gas. In California, it's almost triple that, but it's still at near 15%. Why? A couple of reasons. Chargers are very expensive. EVs are very expensive.
Sure.
The average EV is $66,000 today. The average gas-powered car is $44,000. This is unattainable for the average American. There's more stats. The Ford F-150, the largest, fastest, best-selling truck over the last 40 years. It averages $47,000 in the EV space, $31,000 for gas-powered. This entirely leaves out an enormous portion of the American people. RJ Scaringe, so let's get to the demand, the supply side of this. RJ says 90 to 95% of the supply chain for batteries does not exist today. So yes, it's a nice idea, except they're missing supply and demand. Oh, by the way, about 10,000 gas stations in California are about to go out of business. I think this is a deplorable concept to force by 2035.
I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, this is more than a decade from now. And when we saw what we saw with gas prices spiking, something that was beyond people's control, no one could have predicted a war in Ukraine. That's when you start to see people considering this. And yes, it may be that sort of push that they didn't want to have. But if you see gas prices again after the next event going above $5 a gallon, it might be something that you'd be willing to adopt. And even though we've seen California does tend to take the lead on this, a J.D. Power study also showed that after the West, the South is the next most receptive region, followed by the Northeast and North Central region. So it's not as if there isn't some receptiveness to this, but like you said, it does require better infrastructure in place before people will do it. But I mean, we're talking 2035. This is not tomorrow.
There's about 5 chargers down south. I could go on for the next 5 minutes, but clearly we have made our opinions known.